Welcome to Latino Marin. I'm Veda Florez, your host. Today we have a special guest, Sheila Lichtblau, candidate for Superior Court Judge in the June 3rd election. Welcome, Sheila.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to speak to Latino Marin and the Latino community in Marin County. Tell us about the Superior Court, the different divisions, and how the Marin County Superior Court fits into the grand scheme of things.
Sure. If you don't mind, I'll start with the Marin County Superior Court and then work my way up. The Marin County Superior Court is here in the Frank Lloyd Wright building in the Civic Center in Marin in San Rafael. It starts off first with the small claims court, where small claims cases are heard, and I'm actually one of the judge pro tems that presides over the small claims court. Then for claims that are in excess of $10,000 or criminal claims, those cases are heard in the Marin County Superior Court. And there are different divisions in there. There's the criminal, the civil, we also have family, we have probate. And then for those who are dissatisfied with the decision that they get, there's of course the courts of appeal, and from there, there's the California Supreme Court.
Do you think it's important to have experience in all of these level of courts?
Well, I do think it's important to have certainly a broad-based experience and enough experience that allows every single judge to be able to ask the right questions and to be able to understand the issues. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is the fact that I do have a really broad-based experience. As I said, I'm currently serving as a judge pro tem in the Small Claims Superior Court. The majority of work that I have done and do is civil, but as part of the work that I do as a senior deputy county counsel at the County of Marin, we also get involved in criminal cases. And so, and we get involved as well in juvenile cases. We get involved in probate cases. And so it is important, I think, for judges to have at least enough of an experience to be able to ask those questions, and that's something that I'm proud of in the experience that I have.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about your background.
Sure.
Can you tell us your educational background?
Yes, sure. I grew up in the South Bay in San Jose, California, and went to public schools, elementary and high school. I graduated from public high school, and then I went on and was a student and graduated from UC Berkeley. And then I went to law school at UC Hastings and graduated from UC Hastings College of.
And what relevant experience do you have?
Well, so when I was at Berkeley, my major was, well, I had two majors actually. One of them was in French literature and the other one was in political science. I also took a year off actually between high school and college because I'm a bit of a curious person, and I have a fairly diverse background myself. And I wanted to explore the world a little. So I spent a year abroad as an exchange student in the French part of Switzerland. My curiosity is something that I've had since I was younger. My personal background that sort of fueled this curiosity and continues to fuel it today is the fact that my father is an immigrant from India and my mother immigrated from Puerto Rico. So I had that real cultural diversity growing up that made me really want to explore other cultures, and made me just a very curious person. So in addition to going to Berkeley, in addition to going to Hastings College of the Law, I did spend time in Geneva studying international relations.
The Latino community is all about family and extended family, and I appreciate you sharing that little bit of your family history. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your family?
Yeah, well, my family, it's sort of interesting and unusual for somebody to have a background of a father who comes from India and a mother who comes from Puerto Rico, but both of my parents really fueled a desire in me for service. My father, whose name is Manesh Shah, he grew up in India and talked to me about service, because when he was a young kid, when he was 10 or 11 years old, he would go with his father to the prayer meetings of Mahatma Gandhi. He would go to the meetings of Nehru, and there they talked about service. And my dad would get on the shoulders of his father and listen to this. Mahatma Gandhi would speak on the beaches of Bombay. And so my father really instilled in me a commitment to service, a commitment to community, which for him was very important as part of Gandhi's movement of independence. My mother as well grew up she grew up actually during the Depression in a single family home in Rio Piedras, Puerto Rico. And there she ended up actually being a school teacher. And that was her service to her community. So she was a public school teacher on the western part of the island, in some of the barrios in Puerto Rico and near in Mayagüez and other parts of the island, and she taught there. They both eventually immigrated to the United States, where they met, got married, and were married for 50 years and raised me and my sister.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful, rich experience. How will you best serve the Latino community?
I have been serving the Latino community, I like to think. I just finished my tenure as president of the Association of Latino Marin Attorneys. We call ourselves ALMA, and we consider ourselves to have a lot of ALMA. We are a group of about 15 or 20 attorneys. And part of one of the major things that we like to do, and that we really are focused on in the Latino community, is making sure that we have students who end up becoming Latino students who end up becoming lawyers and who are supported. And we consider ourselves the mentorship network for those students. So we do a lot of programs. We reach out to USF, we reach out to UC Hastings, we talk to those students, we mentor them. So I have some ongoing mentorship relationships with a couple of the students. The goal and the thinking behind it is that many of the Latino students who end up getting to law school don't have the same network that some of their other students have. They don't have as many role models. They don't have those connections that are so important to being successful and becoming successful in the Latino community. And when we are able to provide that, it makes such a difference. And so that has been something that we have really enthusiastically supported through, we've done interview workshops with the students to get them ready for interviews. We've met up with them, we've done mentorships, we've tried to connect as many Latino law students to people we know in law firms, to our own organizations where we work, to really give them the opportunities. And we are looking forward this year to actually expanding what we do, to work with the Canal Alliance, to work with many other organizations in the community here in Marin to really make it a place where Latinos can thrive. We know that the Latino population is a growing population. I believe it's in excess of 16–17% at this time, and it continues to grow here in Marin. And so we need to make sure that Latinos here are just as successful as everyone else, and we need to do our part as Latino lawyers to get there.
You mentioned your involvement in the community. Are you involved in any other boards and commissions?
Yes. So in addition to having served as the president of the Association of Latino Marin Attorneys, I'm also involved in the South Asian Bar Association, of course, because my father is from India. And that is also another growing population here in California. It's a very fast-growing population, and involved in one of the things that we do at the South Asian Bar Association is we volunteer at clinics, which I've done in the San Jose area, where there's a very large Indian population, just helping people who come and who have issues and problems and just want to sit down and talk to an attorney. That's one of the things that SABA does, and that's one of the things that I proudly participate in. In addition, I'm a member, of course, of the Marin County Bar Association. I'm a member of the Public Outreach Committee, one of the things that the Public Outreach Committee does is talks to high school students about various things such as drinking and driving. I've talked to them about the social host ordinance that we have that really puts parents on the hook if in fact their kids throw parties, and really just try to educate high school students, get into some of the different high schools, San Rafael High School and other high schools, and talk to them about issues that are facing their community and the law. Additionally, I participate in, I work with Marin Legal Aid. I volunteer in their unlawful detainer program in the courts, and so I'm very involved in that as well.
Have you always practiced here in Marin County?
I haven't always practiced here in Marin County, but I have spent much of my practice here in Marin County. When I first graduated from law school, I felt that same desire for service that I was telling you about that my parents had instilled in me as a child. And for me, the light switch really came on when I was in law school. I met a former justice of the California Supreme Court whose name is Frank Newman. And Frank Newman was a tireless advocate for human rights. And so he inspired my desire to serve, and which is what I ended up doing right after I graduated from law school. When I was working with Justice Newman before my graduation, we worked at the United Nations together. We worked and helped Central American indigenous peoples who were just trying to get basic human rights and get a declaration together. I worked with him in front of the United Nations to get that before the subcommission. And so when I graduated from law school, I wanted to continue that service. So my first 5 years out of law school, I worked for a nonprofit organization doing what some people call poverty law. I worked in Richmond, California during a tough economic time and represented hundreds of disabled and primarily Spanish-speaking clients. I represented Cuban refugees who had come over on a raft and seen people die, who were suffering from disabilities, who were just landed in a country where they didn't speak the language, where they had no access to benefits, where they just were completely hopeless. And it was such a pleasure and an honor to represent those people, to represent Central Americans, to represent Mexicans, to represent all different sectors of the Latino community in the East Bay. Mm-hmm. So that was my first foray, and that was out of the into the legal world once I had my degree, and that was in the East Bay. Following that, I ended up practicing for a private law firm. Actually doing defense work, where I represented small businesses, Fortune 500 companies, schools, something very different from what I had been doing. And I was at that firm. It's a nationwide firm. I was the only female partner at the time. Out of I think it was something like 40 partners, I was the only female partner. But I lived in Marin. And I wanted to be close to my children in Marin. I wanted to be in the same geographical area, and I wanted to serve the county where I lived. Mm-hmm. So I came over about 10 years ago. I began working at the county council's office at Marin, which is where I am today.
Tell me about the professional organizations that you belong to.
Yes. I belong to the Association of Latino Marin Attorneys. I just finished my term as president there. It's a wonderful organization made up of Latino attorneys here in Marin. We are about 25 to 30 attorneys. We founded the organization about 3 years ago. And one of the wonderful things that we do is promote mentorship of Latino students. And our current focus, although we are expanding, is on Latino law students, because we want the Latino law students to become vibrant, confident attorneys. And so as part of ALMA and what we do, we invite them out once a year to meet with us. We mentor them. We actually have mentorship relationships. We do interview workshops with them to get them ready for job interviews, and we make every effort to try and connect them with different law firms, organizations, to make sure that they have the same opportunities as everybody else. Additionally, I am a member of the Marin County Bar Association, and as part of that membership, I work on the Public Outreach Committee. We go and we speak to high school students about various things such as drinking and driving and the perils of that. I've spoken to them about the social host ordinance. We are talking about expanding that program that we have and speaking on other topics to high schools. Additionally, I also am active with the South Asian Bar Association. And as part of the South Asian Bar Association, one of the things that we do is we hold clinics and where we have people come in and speak to us about the just various problems that they may have. It's a free service that we provide, and we try and get them connected to lawyers who can help them, or we see if we can help them ourselves. And then finally, I am active and volunteer with Marin Legal Aid. Marin Legal Aid provides free services to those who don't have the means to represent themselves. And one of the things that I very much enjoy doing is volunteering at the Unlawful Detainer Clinic, which is a clinic where we are connected with people who don't have attorneys, and we represent them and try and help them in the Marin County Superior Court with getting their cases resolved.
We're early in the election, and I'm wondering if you have any current endorsements?
Yes, I have several endorsements. First and foremost, I am very, very proud to have the endorsement of the retiring judge. Her name is Judge Faye Diopel. She is the judge who decided to retire this year, and out of all of the candidates, she has chosen me as the person who she is endorsing for the election. Additionally, I have the endorsement of Judge Mark Talamantes. I have the endorsement of Justice Maria Rivera, who is on the California Court of Appeals. I have endorsements from Judge Noel Weiss. I have endorsements from the just retired Judge Lynn Dury, who just recently retired and had a wonderful career at the Marin County Superior Court and was voted Judge of the Year by the Consumer Attorneys. I have endorsements from commissioners. I have who are retired and other judges in the Bay Area. Additionally, I also have the endorsements of Marin County Supervisor Kate Sears. I have the endorsement of Marin County Supervisor Steve Kinsey. I have the endorsement of former and one of the longest serving Marin County Supervisors, Gary Giacomini. I have the endorsement of Patrick Faulkner, who was the county counsel at the County of Marin for many years. I also have the endorsement of many town council members from Ross, from San Anselmo, from Larkspur, Corte Madera, Mill Valley. And I'm sure I'm forgetting others.
We can find more on your website.
Yes.
And we'll talk more about your website
Sure.
at the end of the show.
Sure.
So what gives you the unique qualifications to serve the Latino community?
Well, I'm being a Latina myself and somebody who's worked very closely with the Latino community. I feel like it's a perspective that I bring to the bench that many others, and I would say none of the other candidates have. As I mentioned earlier, I spent many years serving the Latino community when I worked in the East Bay at the Hawkins Center. I have continued to serve the Latino community in my work with as the president of the Association of Latino Marin Attorneys. As I said, I mentor many of these Latino students, and so I really believe that I bring a perspective that is very much needed in Marin County. As I indicated before, Marin County is approaching an almost 20%, and it may have even exceeded, Latino population. And we need judges on the bench that have that perspective. I speak Spanish, and I think it's important for Latinos here to know and understand that there are people on the bench who have a perspective and an understanding of who they are.
What are two key things that voters should look at when they're electing a judge?
Well, if I may tell you about four of them.
Okay.
So Socrates, who was a very old and great legal scholar, has said that a good judge is somebody who hears courteously, who answers wisely, who considers soberly, and who decides impartially. Mm-hmm. And those are four really very, very good things that I think we have to think about in terms of choosing a judge. We want the judge who is serving on the bench to actually listen, to be able to understand that there is more than one perspective, to understand and make people feel as though they're being heard and understood. And so that's something that is not only important, but it's something that I think I can bring to the bench. I have the perspective of somebody who has represented very, very poor people, homeless people, people who with very severe mental and physical disabilities. I've represented Fortune 500 companies. I've represented schools, and for the last 10 years, I've represented the county of Marin and its constituents. And having somebody with that ability to listen to those perspectives is very important. The other thing that's really important is to be able, as a judge, when we say to listen courteously, that means to be polite. That means to have the temperament, the demeanor, to let people feel when they come in that they can tell their story. I'm proud to say that as part of my interest in becoming judge, I was what we say vetted by the legal community. There were several hundred postcards that went out and to ask others and lawyers primarily about my qualifications. And at the end of that, what usually happens is then you get them back, and then there's a commission that looks at it and then asks you a question based on the negative comments that you might receive from the community. And I am very, very proud to say I had only positive comments from the legal community. Part of that is my ability to get along with opposing counsel. We can all represent vigorously and zealously our clients, but being cordial, being courteous, being professional is very, very important. And those qualities translate to being a judge, because that's how and you want to really run your courtroom. You want to be polite, you want to listen to people. In terms of answering wisely, which is Socrates' other belief in what makes a good judge, I would say that you want somebody with a broad-based experience, somebody who is actually brings the experience that's necessary to be able to make good decisions and to be able to make intelligent decisions. In my background, I have had certainly jury trials in federal court, in state court. I believe I'm the only candidate who has actually argued before the California Supreme Court. I have several decisions that have been published and on a variety of issues. And so a judge in Marin County is going to have to listen to a wide variety of matters, not just one side, not just criminal or not just civil, but we get into issues like land use, like election law, like constitutional issues and tax issues. And I'm proud to say that I have engaged in and worked on all of those different issues. And so I believe that I will be able to answer wisely. The other thing that Socrates talks about is consider soberly. And that, in my view, means to really think about the decisions that are being made. And to be able to do it yet in a manner that is decisive. And again, my experience in representing the wide variety of clients that I've represented, in going before not only the Superior Court and the Court of Appeals, but the California Supreme Court, I believe that I will really be able to answer wisely. It's something that I have certainly practiced as a Superior Court Judge Pro Tem. It's also something that I practice because I also serve as a mediator. I serve as a mediator for the Federal District Court in San Francisco. So I believe that I'm able to answer wisely as well. And then finally, consider Socrates says it's important to be able to, when you make your decisions, to make them impartially. And that's really important, and that's something that I also believe that I can and will do. For me, having represented plaintiffs, defendants, the poor, the rich, I think it really gives you that perspective. So when you sit down and make a decision, you don't come at it with one simple perspective. You come at it with a very broad-based perspective. And it is very important.
Why should this election be important to voters?
The election should be important to voters because we have an opportunity here to elect somebody. Most of the time, it's the governor that makes the appointments. And this time, in this election, it's up to the people here, the people in Marin County, to make a decision as to who they want on the bench. Do they want somebody who has a broad-based perspective? Do they want somebody who has the ability and the experience to be able to really listen impartially, to be able to really understand every single person who comes in that courtroom? And that's why it's important. It's your decision that you get to make. Do you want somebody who has a background of having served the Latino community, somebody who speaks Spanish, somebody who actually may be reflective of the community in which you live in? It is important. It's important for every voter here to vote, and it's important for them to make an informed decision in this election.
How can voters reach you?
Sure. I have a website. It's called www.sheilaforjudge.com. And I also have a Facebook account, which also is Sheila for Judge.
And Twitter, Instagram?
Twitter is up as well, and so we can reach me at Sheila for Judge on my Twitter account as well. And there's lots of information about me, about why this election is important, about my background, about my ties to the Latino community, about my ties and my background growing up. A child of parents from India, a child of parents of a mother from Puerto Rico, who is, by the way, a Sotomayor. My mother's name is Margarita Sotomayor. No connection, but you can find out about my personal background. Yes.
And you'll have to make sure to go to Facebook and like us on our page.
I certainly will.
Latino Marin. We can also be found on Twitter, Latino Marin 360.
Wonderful.
So we'll get the social media connected, and I look forward to seeing you more in the future. And I thank you very much for joining us today on Latino Marin.
It's a true pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for joining Latino Marin. Latino Marin weaves the Latino experience into the fabric of Marin County. We are advocating and educating our Latino community. We're also donating laptops to students. Our goal for next year is to donate 500 computers. If you have a gently used laptop with a newer operating system, please contact Latino Marin at latinomarin360@gmail.com. We also have a sister website called Voto Marin. You'll find PowerPoint presentations, what's on your ballot, dedicated information about Latinos voting in the United States, California, and Marin County. Thank you very much for joining us, and please visit our website, latinomarin.org, votomarin.org. Follow our Twitter feed at Latino Marin 360.